Hi, welcome back to the Political Beat at LFpress.com. I'm City Hall Bureau Chief Pat Maloney. With me is my prehistoric research assistant, Chip Martin.
Thank you, Pat.
And I think, Chip, we're going to try to do things a little differently because...
I hope so.
We're going to try to keep the videos a little shorter because, though they are so entertaining, I think they're too long. So let's try to keep this train on the tracks and move it right along. And let's start with the good mayor, Joe Fontana, and his charity and your very excellent story on today's front page. Let's assume I didn't read it, since I didn't. I don't generally read your work. But tell me explain to the readers what's going on. What's the story?
That'll teach me a lesson.
Right.
The Canada Revenue Agency has some issues with respect to Trinity Global Foundation, the charity that Mayor Joe Fontana was chairperson of and is a director of. And the Canada Revenue Agency has issued a revocation of its charitable status. It allowed a delay in implementing that so that Trinity Global could argue against revocation of its status in the Federal Court of Appeal, which the hearing was yesterday in Toronto, and I was there for it, and the judge at the end of the day reserved a judgment. It should be released next week. You may recall the foundation is the mayor's charity, and that in the last fiscal year they issued tax receipts of $152 million to people who had donated to it. And the Canada Revenue Agency has some issues with respect to the valuation of the gifts, the pharmaceuticals, the computer courseware, the school lunch programs, and all these things that Trinity's involved with, saying that they're valued too high, and they have a suspicion that the purpose of this is not so much for a charity but for tax relief for investors. Okay.
Now let's, you and I were talking about this earlier. I think that this is a very, very, very serious story, and there's some really serious allegations here. Let's not talk about Trinity Global. Let's talk about sort of a hypothetical charity. Explain to me in a hypothetical sense. You're the hypothetical charity. I'm the donor. What is Trinity Global being accused of doing?
Okay.
So let's walk through it.
Okay. So, you as a donor...
I'm just some guy.
You're some guy, and you say you are told that if you donate to me, you can get...
charity.
To me, the charity, you can get some tax receipts back that will reduce your tax owing to the federal government.
So I donate you $500.
And I give you a receipt for $500.
Okay, and that's tax deductible.
Yeah, that's a tax receipt you have for that. And then what I do on your behalf is I disseminate courseware, computer courseware.
You buy something with the $500.
I buy material that I'm going to donate to deserving school kids or hungry kids or Caribbean or places where they need HIV medicine or that sort of stuff. I take this material and on your behalf I acquire it and then I sell it. And then based on the value that I have put on it, I then give you a second tax receipt for an amount much, much higher than the original tax receipt I gave you. It's that valuation that as a charity I am putting on it and then issuing receipts to you is what the CRA is complaining about.
And the CRA allows a charity the autonomy to put a valuation on whatever they're buying and donating.
If the CRA believes it's reasonable, that's right. They trust charities to do this. When there's a large amount of value added and a large amount of tax receipts issued, it seems to attract their attention, as it has in this case, and their suspicions were sufficient that they decided to revoke the status of the charity.
Okay, so again, I'm the donor to the hypothetical charity. I've given you $500. You've given me my legitimate $500 receipt. You've bought some courseware for some First Nation schools. You've donated it to the schools,
and I'm saying,
but then you said that courseware was worth $90,000. So you give me another receipt for $90,000 that I can write off against my taxes?
I put a large value on that, and then I don't know if it relates to exactly $90,000, but I give you another receipt for an amount far greater than the original receipt I issued you. It's in that valuation is where the issue comes.
Now, so that the charity could lose its status, and there's obviously a lot of, that raises a lot of eyebrows. I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around it all together. My only other question is, I'm the donor. How can I possibly be sitting here thinking, I gave you $500 and now I'm getting a receipt worth tens of thousands of dollars? How can I think that that's
because I assured you that I had auditors go over it and we placed a value on it, and because of the way we were able to do things, I was able to significantly increase the value of the original money that you gave me.
So it sounds like some magic beans are involved or something.
It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting, and I tracked down a couple of charities that
would have received the donation.
That received donations from Trinity Global, and it was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in both instances, the social agency said, "We never got anything like that. I'd die for that kind of money."
Yeah.
So
Trinity Global valued its donation to in the hundreds of thousands, but it was nothing of the kind.
Well, I don't know, but
that's what they say.
That's what they valued it at, and the recipient charities say it was nothing like that. So I think somewhere in there, the CRA got a little suspicious and decided to act.
It is a great article, and part of what's so great about it is because it is such a complicated issue, but you're able to, because of your experience covering courts and these sorts of issues, make it make sense. But even at that, it's still a little bit hard for people to really wrap their heads around it, which is why I think it hasn't caught fire with the public quite like it should. But I think that, I hope people read it.
Well, there's another aspect to it, and that is that Fontana's boyhood chum and friend, Vince Ciccone, established this charity and ran it for a time, and then we found out in court yesterday that $6 million of money that was raised for charity winds up in the Ciccone group of companies, and that the Trinity Global is saying, well, that was a bit of a mistake, and we're learning as we go, and we're trying to get that money back. But this is just another aspect to it. But yeah, it's very confusing, and I appreciate you staying awake for my
no, I think it's fascinating, but it's another question mark of maybe character on the mayors. Or, I mean, I don't think that's going too far, right? It's another question mark.
There's question marks, and the Canada Revenue Agency lawyer yesterday said the people running this charity were business people. These are smart people. They should have known better than to do some of these things. That's what was said in court.
Another nick on the Rembrandt. Okay, so downtown Fodemasi Shoes is moving. You wrote about that this week.
Yeah, another blow to the downtown. Fodemasi Shoes is one of the last large family outfits down there. You've got Nash Jewelers, Chesapeake Jewelers, you got Kings Mills, and Fodemasi have been downtown since 1949. You know, not 150 something years or 160 years like Kings Mills, but a long time. Family owned. They sunk $1 million into a new building in 1983. He can only sell it for $800,000, and because of parking and access from his clientele, Rick Fodemasi says, I have to move out of the core. My people can't get here, and he's going down to Wellington Road, south of Commissioners, in that former paint store that the methadone clinic was trying to locate.
Was slated to go to, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand it is harder to park downtown than it is outside of downtown, but it's not impossible.
But if you are elderly and you have mobility problems and you need specialized custom footwear and orthotics and that sort of thing, you want to park as close to the store or the factory as you can, and that was problematic for me.
But I've just kind of had enough of the, you know what, downtown is in terrible shape. I'm sorry that they're leaving, because I actually bought my Blundstones from Fodemasi. I think it was a great store, but downtown's not that bad. And even the fiercest critic of London will tell you, Dundas and Richmond, not looking so hot. You go beyond that, compared to other cities, I just don't think downtown is that bad.
Well, Rick made a good point. There's been a bit of a transformation, and they now say that the downtown is a lifestyle and entertainment area, and it can't be the retail focus anymore. And he says, well, I do my best. I don't know how I'm going to make my orthotics entertaining. I thought that was a good line. But
yeah, that's true.
There has been a significant shift. It used to be, when I first came to London many years ago, yeah, you had Simpsons, you had Eaton's, you had Wellington Square, it was a real retailing force. But the mollification of North America is killing our downtown just like it's killed others.
I disagree that it's killing downtown. I don't think it's being killed at all. I don't think it's in pristine health. I just don't think it's that bad. And I wonder if I did an interview this week with the guy that owns Heroes, which is a comic book store. It's the largest comic book store in southwestern Ontario, one of the biggest in Ontario. Great store, and it's a destination point, and it's a cultural, cultural hub. And I wonder
so
if
are tattoo parlors, and so are pawn shops, and so are money lending agencies,
and so are places like Call the Office. And I mean, these are business. These are. I wonder if cultural businesses, cultural retail businesses, is what can thrive in a downtown, not a place that sells orthotics. Though great though it may be.
Well, they've talked about the downtown core should be a place for specialized retailing, and it doesn't get more specialized retailing than custom-made footwear and orthotics. So the niche markets that they recommend the core should appeal to, that's a major loss. And I'd love to do this if we could get more, so if we could get these cameras rolling, and Pat and I could take a little stroll down Dundas Street, and I would be happy to show as we walk past these, there's an empty one, there's an empty one, there's an empty one,
I mean, I have 20/20 eyesight. I see it. All I'm saying is you're telling me it's killing downtown. And I'm telling you that that is an overstatement, that downtown is being killed.
You've never overstated anything, Pat?
Generally not,
If
no.
there weren't for overstatement, you'd have no statement at all.
That's right, yeah. If I wasn't complaining, I'd have nothing to talk about.
That's right.
Okay. Anyway, remember what we said about keeping this short?
Yes.
So this week, council talked about, there was a council meeting, they started to talk about, okay, what are all our job-creating agencies, the LEDC and the Economic Development Corp and, Tech Alliance and all these, how are these groups all meeting? And maybe we should meet a little more often to talk to them and communicate with them. This is council talking, and we got to make all these groups work together, and we have to communicate our vision for them. And it was, you got the mayor agreeing with Joni, Paul Hubert making some really interesting points. A really good conversation happening. Councillor Dale Henderson out of Ward 9 stands up and says, I'm excited. I'm excited.
He's always excited.
There are 5 projects on the books coming up. I'm not going to tell you. By summer, all you got to do is say yes, and it'll inject $100 million into the city's economy. 5 projects worth $100 million, 3 months. He's the only guy that knows about it. Just you wait. And I think he actually said, just wait and see, I think is what he said.
Well, if he pulls it off, people may start listening to him.
If he pulls it off, he will get a guest spot on the political beat.
Yes, well, yes. Oh, but isn't he competition? Dale TV?
I never thought of that.
That's right.
But he, you know what, I'll start watching Dale TV with regularity. It'll be on my PVR.
I'm sure he would break it there first.
But I just thought this was a fairly good discussion, and a discussion that needs to happen. And it's something that I've seen several times where a councillor just takes it off the rails with a comment or a statement that you don't really expect, and you don't really put a lot of weight into it. And you know who they are, and I don't have to get into it, but Dale tends to be one of them. And I thought, at that point, party's over. Okay, that serious conversation's done.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Did he say by summer we would have these?
He said 3 months, so that's April, May, June. So
okay.
Canada Day.
Say by Canada Day, we'll say, Dale, okay, where is it?
Well, we'll remember this clip and we'll show it again. We'll make sure we wear different clothes so that when we're filming the Canada
Day, different episode. Yes, we've had that problem. Yes.
And then we'll do that. And then 2 NIMBY type projects. House for independent autistic adults planned for a neighborhood in just off Clark Road in Bill Armstrong's Ward 2, where a neighborhood of people who are definitely not happy with me because of the stories I wrote about it. It was deferred. And affordable housing in the old Manor and Highland Park School, which is near Old South, also deferred. And the politicians want more information from staff, even though staff was planning staff was very happy with both projects. You know what? I'm a little flat-footed on the affordable housing, but I think that they had I think planning had endorsed both of them.
Well, both of those projects, unless I'm mistaken, are good examples of infilling, taking advantage of existing municipal infrastructure that goes right by the door. Yeah. There's no need to take more farmland out of production and have city services extended. This seems to make a lot of sense. Both of these seem to make a lot of sense on the surface, and that's the sort of thing the city should be doing. However,
and you've got staff saying, like one of the finest planning staffs in the country saying, yeah, these are both good ideas. The politicians saying, no, not yet. And I wonder if we're going to have a little death by deferral. I suspect that's exactly what's going to happen with the autism project, because they needed a zoning change to apply for funding by May 23rd. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. So it's a shame. I wonder if there's a little bit of a NIMBYism kind of run amok a little bit, but I don't know. Are those projects going to get off the ground?
Well, as I say, this council that's committed to saving some money, one would think you'd take advantage of existing municipal infrastructure and try to see if you can infill a little bit, because otherwise it's more expensive to service if it's on the fringe of a city.
And I think you've heard people complain before that maybe the planning department, not just the planners, but staff who are experts in their fields, their advice or their recommendations aren't always listened to maybe quite as closely as they should be by the politicians. I thought this was 2 examples of that, and I just raised it because, I don't know, we needed something else to talk about, so that's that.
So have we kept it short?
Yeah, that's good. So for Chip, I'm Pat. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time at lfpress.com.